There's a lot less business. There are people who steal things.
It's one of more than 15,000 storefronts standing empty across the city. Many of them have remained vacant for almost a year.
Well, that checks out. The mayor's been in for almost a year, and we got a big problem of empty stores on our hands. And now the question is, what's the mayor doing about it? Well, he's doing something, but it won't help as the Mamdani machine is set to open city-run grocery stores with prices 30% less than what legitimate businesses offer while continuing New York's legacy of decriminalization. Which means the thugs destroying these stores will continue fearing nothing.
How bad is the shoplifting here?
It's bad.
We've seen it at pharmacies, so much stuff under lock and key, all an effort to fight the shoplifting epidemic, and scenes like these.
Violence on our streets. And you always hear the politicians speaking about the aftermath. But what are they doing? They're doing nothing.
Because instead of empowering the people, his policies have empowered criminals.
I don't feel safe in the subway generally. They say there's lower crime, but I don't see that. It doesn't seem like it's such a big priority for him.
There's times at night that I don't feel safe walking back to my friend's apartment alone if I'm alone.
The cashier has to unlock the glass case to grab the medicine. Thieves are also targeting ice cream and meat. Who could forget the guy allegedly stealing all those steaks at a Trader Joe's in Manhattan?
You bought the ticket, enjoy the ride. I mean, the Democrat Party's been embracing these socialists for years. Wanted to use their energy to gain political power, and now they realize they've got a massive problem.
New York is suffering from a new epidemic of what are being called zombie storefronts. Look at that, 15,700 of them. But nobody who has any problem with this wants to admit that if your jails are empty too, the criminals robbing these places aren't gonna stop. Ever. And nothing will stay open. But what's strange is this comes at a time when the mayor is out there talking about how we need city-run stores because there aren't enough local stores, while complaining that the places that are still hanging on somehow charge so much money nobody can afford to shop at them, which is why we need price rigging to keep things in the city-run stores 30% cheaper than anywhere else, which is just gonna close down more stores faster because things aren't 30% cheaper at the city-run store. No, the entire city and the entire state are now paying so that whoever shops at the city-run store can save 30% on their groceries. So it's not cheaper, someone's paying. And as these businesses get hammered with increasing taxes and increasing crime, there's only one option for them, which is to go out of business. But it gets even worse because we just witnessed local grocery stores throwing out all of their food when New York City's power grid caved during normal summer weather, which happened while investigators found out city air conditioners in government buildings were much colder than the 78 degrees the mayor ordered everyone else to turn their thermostats to. And when you add all of this together, you have a deck completely slanted against businesses, which generates massive applause from the communists who hate these places. Which brings us to the real reason these local businesses are closing down, shipping out, and being replaced by government-run alternatives. New York is being taken over and transformed, and it's happening fast. And to the communists, undercutting these local businesses that are barely surviving makes perfect sense. You see any local business out there? They deserve it. Their prices are too high. They're exploiting their customers. They're exploiting their workers. And if they get robbed by criminals, they deserve it. That is the attitude of those elected to protect these businesses. They think these businesses are evil because they can exist without the government, which is why shutting them down is the only thing the mayor cares about. Watch this.
Selection of essential staples that will be predictably 30% cheaper at all 5 of our city-run grocery stores. This core set of goods will include all fresh produce, meat, and seafood, along with 20 other essential items like cheese, milk, and bread.
So here we have an announcement. Prices go down in the city-run grocery store, but all year we've had other announcements of how taxes are just going up and up and up, which means everybody else is paying for this, and that includes the very business owners that now have to compete with this and can't. Who can compete with 30% off constantly? Nobody. But then there's the crime. Check this out.
Then they all have something to say, right? We know what the remedy is because we've lived through this before. The remedy is very simple. the governor, the mayor, instead of having a day out watching a FIFA game at Rikers
Yeah, the
with
mayor did that.
be advocating for victims. Protect the victims and their families. How? Anyone that gets caught with an illegal gun in New York City should face a mandatory 3 to 5 years, the way Pataki had it years ago.
So while the mayor is out there worried about who is going to get to buy his free groceries first, local business owners are worried that criminals, who are some of the hardest criminals anywhere in the country, are going to come into their stores and do whatever they want, which is what they've been doing. And they're worried that there aren't enough consequences. And they're worried that we have a revolving door justice system that cycles people through and doesn't teach them that what they've done is wrong and has a consequence, but instead gives them unlimited second chances that they just use to get better at committing crime. And when you add to that the fact that people who are under the age of 18 are not held responsible at all for criminal activity, you end up with a situation where by the time somebody graduates high school, they've had so many interactions with the police that they're now a professional criminal. They have more experience committing crime and escaping from law enforcement and dealing with law enforcement than the new recruits coming into the NYPD have stopping criminals just like these guys. Think about that. The criminals have way more experience than our own police at a time when our justice system does absolutely nothing to stop people from committing repeat crime all over the place. And when you add to that the fact that every time there's a controversial arrest, the mayor always goes out and takes the side of the criminals and says the police were too harsh, and says the charges should be dropped, something he's done several times already in his first term, you've got local business owners asking, is anyone gonna come along and help us?
The nonprofit behind the study says nationally, retail vacancies are around 4%, but in New York City, it's 11.
Wow, it's almost 3 times as bad.
The real estate broker for this former all-you-can-eat hot pot business on Hester Street says the rent is $14,000 a month, down $500 from the prior tenant. It's been empty for 4 months, and the neighboring food store tells us through a translator,
there's a lot less business. There are people who steal things.
It's one of more than 15,000 storefronts standing empty across the city, according to Small Business United. The coalition of small business owners says many of them have remained vacant for almost a year.
That's
crazy.
A
new study from the group entitled Empty Storefronts, High Rents found over a 5-year period, the city's store vacancy rate increased nearly 30%.
So the point of this report by this nonprofit is to make it look like you have these landlords who are just so greedy that they would rather have empty storefronts than thriving businesses. But the problem is, if you listen to the testimonies of these business owners, they'll tell us that there just isn't enough business and that there are criminals committing crime in front of these businesses. So if you're a landlord and this is your storefront right here at 69A Eldridge Street in the Lower East Side of Manhattan, which is a popular area with very expensive apartment rents, do you want a business open downstairs when you have apartments upstairs and that business is always getting robbed and that business just attracts criminals? Probably not. The city should be getting criminals off the streets, but they're not. The city should be improving these neighborhoods, but they're not. The city should be making sure that there's not crime being committed in front of where people live and where people are trying to work, but they're not doing that. But it gets worse. Watch.
It dropped around 6%.
Many of these storefronts initially become vacant in the first place because their previous tenants could not afford the new rent.
I believe it.
Stephanie Nelson is a real estate lawyer who works with commercial landlords.
Commercial landlord owners are holding out because they know there is really no statute that governs what they can charge, unlike residential.
The Real Estate Board of New York says it's a mistake to attribute retail turnover to rising asking rents. It says recent vacancies are tied to changing consumer habits.
Right.
This comes as state legislation was introduced earlier this year that would stabilize rent for small businesses.
Okay. That would be a disaster. They've already frozen rents in the apartment market, and that's creating a lot of problems for people who are looking to rent a place because now there's nothing available and landlords are going broke. So if you're gonna do that with these storefronts that are already empty, you're just gonna create more problems. The real solution here is to put people in jail who commit crime, but nobody seems interested in doing that for some reason.
Where there was respect for police officers, where they'd make an arrest and it would stick. Not make an arrest and minutes later the person is out because he couldn't afford bail.
Yeah.
right? We're dealing with a very serious matter here that affects all the small businesses. When are they going to come out and say, if you get caught with an illegal gun in New York City, you're going to do 3 to 5 years mandatory? That's what we need. That's what New Yorkers need.
But the problem is, the people running New York, they look at these business owners and the last thing they care about is their stores getting robbed. The last thing they care about are criminals walking in the door and doing whatever they want. That is the last thing a bunch of college-educated communists care about, what's happening to actual working people, because they despise these working people. These bodega owners, they don't need them. Many of them make more money than people who are now hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt because they went to college and learned about communism. So you've got major resentment here between the elite ruling class that is setting itself up to take over New York and transform it, and the people who actually make the city work. They look at these guys and they say, you know what? Their high prices, I don't care if they're the result of crime. I don't care if they're the result of landlords who are asking enough money to make sure they get tenants that can really afford to stay there and can afford to do more than they're supposed to do, which is just running a business. Oh, I don't care about that. I don't care if products cost more because we've got things like congestion pricing that jack up fees on the trucks that are delivering food to these places. I don't care if it costs them more to operate because every time there's a heat wave, they got to throw out all their food because the electricity goes out. They don't care about any of that stuff. In fact, what they do care about is transforming this place at all costs, which is why their policies empower criminals. Check this out.
Because instead of empowering the people, his policies have empowered criminals.
I don't feel safe in the subway generally. They say there's lower crime, but I don't see that. It doesn't seem like it's such a big priority for him.
There's times at night that I don't feel safe walking back to my friend's apartment alone if I'm alone.
Yeah, this is a big disaster. New York is not a place where people feel safe. Now, we've been told for years that, oh, the crime stats are dropping, and if people don't feel safe in New York, well, that's just all in their head. There must be something wrong with your thinking. You might have a prejudice or something that you need to get rid of in order to start feeling safe. But people know the reality of what happens. They know that there's no law enforcement mechanism that tells a criminal in this place to be on their best behavior and change their ways. Therefore, the criminals don't. And now average people are suffering with the results of that because they don't feel safe walking to their friend's apartment. They don't feel safe taking the train to go to work. And the idea that these criminals don't prey on businesses, that's ludicrous. Right now, the subways and all of the areas of the train that have stores, those are all shut down. The MTA cannot make money with the subway infrastructure that they have. Why? Because there's criminals everywhere. There's criminals below ground, there's criminals above ground, and as you're about to see, in areas where crime is highly concentrated, businesses can't survive at all, which is not only what we're seeing up on the streets, but also somewhere else. Look at this.
Would you buy food and drink from one of these vending machines down in the subway? Have you seen them? They're new.
Maybe what's that, Grandma's?
Yeah, see, that looks good.
Grandma's.
Look at this thing, it's brand new.
Do they actually work?
It works.
They don't think it works.
I saw a woman buy some
because
water.
nothing down there works.
Amazing. I love this.
It's crazy, right?
I need this in every train station.
This is on the F line at 2nd Avenue. Here
the F
go.
at 2nd Avenue.
She's getting water. Oh my gosh. Back in the day, the little newsstand stores were in almost 300 train stations. That was in the 80s. Now there are just a few dozen.
Yeah, and you know why that is? These places, they try to exist in the subway. They were trying. But guess what started happening? The criminals figured out that they could do whatever they want to these places. And this is a major issue. Crime happening at these little stores, it kicked them all out. It shut them all down because crime is worse underground. There is more lawlessness down here than there is up on the streets. These places got hit the hardest first, and they were the first small businesses to close, and nobody cried for them. So now we get vending machines. And listen to what the MTA says about this.
We love the old school news.
Back in the day, the little newsstand stores were in almost 300 train stations. That was in the 80s. Now there are just a few dozen.
We love the old school newsstands. The economics of the old school newsstands eroded during COVID, and most of them didn't want to come back.
I started punching in different options. It looks like the food runs around $3 a piece. The most expensive drink is $4.50. That's for the protein drink.
Okay.
All right, gummy bears. They got Grandma's oatmeal raisin.
How long do you think it's going to be before this brand new vending machine gets broken into and looted. This 2nd Avenue F train station, anybody who's ever been down there will tell you that there is a lot going on, but the city allows it to happen. They're allowing people to sleep down there. You can't have a snack machine like this and expect it to just be there and exist before somebody makes a run at it, and these things get totally destroyed, defaced, broken like everything else is down there. And pretty soon, these are gonna be gone too. We just cannot have nice things in this city unless those things are given to us by the communists.
That's just a Trojan horse for the DSA to seize power within the Democrat Party. And then also America. You can look at the DSA's own survey from 2021. 80% have degrees. Most are white-collar workers. Only 4% have blue-collar jobs. And then you look at the Real platform, that's what really tells the story about what they want to do. And what they want to do is destroy America by stealing from us the things that we have earned, by abolishing private property, destroying the things that keep us safe, like the police or prisons, or wanting open borders.
And what do you think these businesses have a problem with? They have a problem with all of the things she just mentioned. The socialists are allowing this to happen because they look at these private businesses that are making a profit and they say that's wrong. Shouldn't happen. The only way there's profit in a capitalist system is if somebody's being exploited. They reject the idea that capitalism lifts people out of poverty and creates jobs for people, something the government can't do. What the government can do is come in and shut these places down by spending all the money that they're supposed to spend on police, on city-run grocery stores that are just gonna put these things out of business faster. They do not care about the plight of the people who make this city work and work hard every single day without them.
You bought the ticket, enjoy the ride. I mean, the Democrat Party's been embracing these socialists for years, brought them in, wanted to use their energy to gain political power, and now they realize they've got a massive problem. First of all, the far left is never going to be content with not having full power inside the Democrat Party. So moderates and the establishment are starting to realize we're next on their list. They're going to take us out as well. They welcome the Viper into their embrace, and the Viper's going to take them out. And the other thing, too, is they realize this is not going to be a winning campaign.
Well, it is going to be a winning campaign if your goal is to solidify power. If your goal is, you know what? I'm okay with losing on a national level if I can get myself a stronghold, if I can get myself a New York City and bring communism to New York City and totally take that place over, because from there it's only a matter of time before the virus spreads. And that's a very shrewd point. These pro-business